Hi, this is Chase Utley, and this is the Phillies Show.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Phillies Show with Ruben Amaro Jr., Jim Salisbury. I'm Todd Zalecki. We have a very special Phillies show for you today. Chase Utley, greatest second baseman in franchise history, 2008 World Series champion. No doubt about it. Phillies Wall of Famer, potential Hall of Famer, was just in town recently to promote the 2024 London series between the Phillies and Mets, June 8th and 9th at London Stadium. While he was here, Chase was gracious enough with his time to sit down with Ruben, Jim, and I for almost an hour. We covered a lot of ground. We talked about London, life in Europe, and of course, a lot of great Philly stories. Some stories that you think you knew, but you will learn something more about, and some things you have never heard before. I know I've never heard of him before. We think you're going to absolutely love this one. It was a lot of fun. This episode is brought to you by Scheib Vintage Sports. The Phillies are hot, and so are the styles at Scheib Vintage Sports. Check them out for all your Phillies shirts, hats, and more for kids and adults. Locally owned, Scheib carries exclusive designs from national brands as well as original creations from Philly area artists. Think Powder Blue and Maroon, Veteran Stadium, the Whiz Kids. So visit Scheib Vintage Sports in Center City, Wayne, and Westchester, or at scheibsports.com. And remember, tell them the Philly Show sent you for 15% off. So now, without further ado, here is the Phillies Show conversation with Chase Utley.
Chase, thank you so much for spending some time with us. You're in town to promote the London series. How excited are you to have the Phillies come to town and play in this? Last year it was the Cubs and the Cardinals. This has got to be a bigger thrill for you, I imagine.
Yeah, much bigger thrill. First of all, thanks for having me on the show. It's good to connect with you guys. It's been a little while.
Yeah.
But yeah, happy to be back in town and really fired up that the Phillies are coming to London. You guys know this, but I've been there now. My wife, Jen, and the kids, we've been there for almost 2 years, exploring Europe, also promoting baseball, and the fact that the Phillies are coming to town playing against their nice rival, the Mets. It's really exciting.
You knew what's this stadium like? Is it a soccer stadium? What are we going to see when they play ball?
Yeah, right now it's a soccer stadium. It was built for the Olympics when the Olympics were in London. So it's one of the only stadiums in and around London that could fit a baseball field because it had a track around it. So they converted it into a baseball field, or a baseball pitch, if you will, meaning that's what they call the field in Europe. And it's gonna be nice. It's actually, when you walk in, you would think that the field belongs there all the time. You wouldn't be able to tell that it was produced over a 2-week period, and then they're going to tear it down and turn it back into a soccer field. So it's pretty unique.
Do they have a guinea pig who goes out there and takes some ground balls? Would that be you, or
that would not be me? No, I'm not going to be the guinea pig. I mean, MLB's kind of done this before in other places, right? Obviously, other countries, they do the games throughout the course of the year. The what's the one they did a few years ago? The Field of Dreams.
Yep.
Did that one. They know what they're doing. It's kind of plug and play for them.
I'm just curious, what was your impetus to go? A couple of things. What was your impetus to get to go to Europe and to spend time there, as opposed to staying and having your kids grow up here in the States? And tell us how the ambassadorship how did that happen with MLB?
Yeah, so this was a conversation that Jen and I had a while ago. This is kind of before I retired, and she had spent a year abroad in college, and it kind of shaped how she thought about the world, and she looked back on that experience as being a wonderful experience. I obviously didn't do much traveling other than within the United States playing baseball. Summers were kind of preoccupied. So I said, sure, whenever it's said and done, we'll talk about it. I retired. I don't know, within a few months, she brought it back up. And obviously, you guys know me. Change is kind of not comforting to me, right? I like routine, I know where I'm going to get my coffee. I know what time I'm eating lunch. I know what I'm going to have for lunch. So this was way out of my element. But the more I thought about it and the more I talked with her, the more I realized, like, for me personally, this would be a great experience. But more importantly, for my kids, right? So they know Southern California, they know San Francisco, they know Philadelphia. Those are the two areas that they know. They've been to Mexico, and that's about it. So to broaden their horizons and to have them understand that there is another part of the world, right? The conversations we were having now, we've talked about this before, the conversations we were having now about Europe or the Middle East or Africa would not be happening whatsoever if they were still in LA, because, we were all in our kind of our little bubble. So we got out of our bubble to explore and to show them something different. It's not going to last forever. But they're at an age where we felt like we could maneuver them a little bit. But at some time, we have to kind of settle down somewhere.
So
and the MLB thing?
So the MLB thing is, again, I was a little naive, as when you're, Ruben, you know this. Jim, maybe you would have known this if you worked a little bit harder at baseball, but at the major league level, everyone does everything for you, right? They handle the travel. You just kind of have to show up, and it all kind of works. So I thought to myself, well, sure, we'll just go to London and run a place and put the kids in school. No big deal. And soon I realized that I was completely naive, and you actually need a visa to do so. Oh, okay. Now how
You're actually living there.
How are we gonna work this out? So talked with Jen a little bit, and I was kind of going through my Rolodex of people that I know that maybe have businesses there. We can link up there. And she's like, God, you're such an idiot. Doesn't baseball have MLB have an office there? So, actually, they do. So I made a couple phone calls, talked to Jim Small. I'm not sure if you know who Jim Small is. Wonderful guy. Kind of told him what we were thinking about doing. We want to come to Europe. We want to use London as our home base, travel around Europe. But also, I mean, I'd love to help you out on the ground there and help promote baseball. So we had a few different conversations, and it all kind of worked out.
That's great.
Where else have you used London as your base? You mentioned travel Europe. Where else have you and the family, kind of visited?
We've checked a lot of boxes. We've done 3 or 4 trips to Italy, different parts of Italy. We've done Paris is a 2-hour train ride from London, so it's super easy. Done that a few different times. Done the coast of France. We've done Portugal. We've done Austria. We've done Germany. We've done Copenhagen. We've done Amsterdam. We've done Istanbul. We've done Kenya.
Wow, that's got to be what an experience for the kids.
Have your
man.
kids picked up any English slang and used it on you, like when you ask them to clean their room and they drop a bollocks on you or something like that? I could, if they have your sense of humor, I can actually see them breaking this out on.
What about the accent?
Yeah, bollocks.
So they don't have an accent, but there are some words. It's not a full sentence that has an accent, but there is an intonation on a few words that they use. They'll use loo occasionally, which is a bathroom.
Right.
A word that I've started using now a lot, which I never used before, was sort, S-O-R-T.
Yeah.
So I'll figure it out. I'll handle it. Now I will sort it out. Right? Interesting. Do you use?
No, I don't.
About that.
That's too sophisticated.
It makes you sound sophisticated,
doesn't it?
Yeah.
Not.
I mean, everything over there makes you sound more sophisticated.
Yeah, no doubt.
How long did it take you to learn how to drive over there?
We don't drive
Because of the.
Is it an Uber there, or is there a taxi?
There's Uber.
service?
There's black cabs, which is kind of the main way to get around there everywhere.
Is that because being on the other side of the road would mess you up?
I have driven. We rented a car to go out to the countryside one week, and it took a couple minutes to understand my surroundings and feel comfortable, right? Because you're on the other side of the car, you're on the other side of the street. A left turn is a right turn. A right turn is a left turn. Some of the signage is a little bit different. So once you kind of navigate that, the best advice I got was just worst case scenario, just follow the guy in front of you, right? Just follow him, and you're not going to do anything wrong.
They should know.
It's like
the
that scene
roundabouts are opposite, right?
It's like that scene in European Vacation, Big Ben, kids, Parliament, just driving around for half an hour.
Yeah.
Do you ever get recognized over there? I'm curious if you're walking through Trafalgar Square, you ever hear a "Yo, Chase," and you're like, "I've been spotted."
Occasionally, but not very often.
Okay.
No, go Phils. Go Phils.
Some go Phils.
Okay.
There's a few Phillies fans that have recognized me. A few Always Sunny in Philadelphia fans that have recognized me, but not too much.
Do you ever
Have you been to Wrexham? I think I saw Jen on an episode, like a real brief cameo. Was she up there? And have you been up there to watch some games with Rob?
Yes, when we first moved there, we took a drive up to Wrexham. Jen and I and my two boys were meeting Rob and Caitlin, and their kids were there, and we were going to hang out, play some golf, and then go to a game. So get there, have a nice dinner, play golf the next day. Great. Next day is the game. So that night before the game, we're all having a big dinner, and I'm starting to like sweat. Right. This is August of 22. Sorry. I'm like sweating. I'm starting to like feel like achy and gross. So I excuse myself from the table. Sure enough, get back to my room. I'm shivering. I have COVID.
Oh, wow.
First, I lasted 2.5 years without getting it. As soon as I got to Europe,
got it right away.
So my kids and Jen went to the game. I stayed in the hotel room in Wrexham.
We're sequestered.
Yeah, but recently we went back. We went back a few months ago. So yeah.
Well, a story that has popped up while you've been over there, and I'm sure you've seen it. Your buddy Kike Hernandez first talked about it, and then on the Eric Hosmer podcast, they talked about this Yasiel Puig. Have you heard about this?
I've heard about this.
Is this story true, and how do you remember it? Because this might be a top 5 all-time baseball story for real.
Oh, it's going back in the story is true.
Okay,
it is true. So basically, again, this is at the end of my career. I have a lot of experience. I'm probably more valuable in the clubhouse than I am on the field at that point. So I took that role on, which was exciting to me, is try to help this team be better, right, in all aspects, whether it's individual players, whether it's coaching staff, talking to the players. I just kind of implemented myself in a bunch of different areas. And Puig was on my list to like help him, right, because you've seen him play. He's tremendous talent, can do pretty much anything you would ask him to do on a baseball field. But the mental side wasn't always consistent. And listen, it's hard for me to put myself in his shoes, growing up in Cuba, defecting, going to Mexico, being smuggled in. Like, I can't even imagine what that was like. Instant success when he got to the major leagues, which in turn there was monetary gains in that.
Right.
So listen, he was a great player, but he wasn't always there on an everyday basis. Some days he was engaged, some days he just wasn't. So we had a number of different conversations with him over the course of the few years I was with him, and it seemed to stick. Right, he would say the right things. He understood what I was saying. It would kind of work out for a week, and then he would kind of revert back. So this particular instance, he was on second base, and I don't remember if I was hitting or if I was on deck. But long story short, we were blowing out the Brewers late in the game, and he goes to steal second or third base, and Craig Counsell's pissed. Whoever at the bench coach is pissed. Dave Roberts is going, "Oh my God, I can't believe he did that." So I thought this is a great opportunity because Yasiel is a sensitive guy, right? So he might not look like it, but he is a very sensitive guy. So I felt like if someone were to be hurt or like uncomfortable because of actions that he did, he might take it to heart a little bit more. So I looked at it as a perfect opportunity to try to teach him a lesson. So anyways, I went to home plate, and this was, I want to say it was the next, I don't know what happened, but if it was the next inning or the next batter, but essentially I think it was the next inning. I go to the catcher, who I don't remember who it was. Listen, hey, will you mind walking out to your pitcher, asking him to hit me? And he looks at me like, "Excuse me?" And I don't understand. He's like, "Listen, I'm not going to explain it now. Just I want you to hit me, please. Just bean me. No big deal. I'll take my base. Just let's handle this." It's like, "No, Poppy, not going to happen." I said, "Dude, come on, like
let's get it done."
Yeah, let's get it done.
He thought you were probably kidding.
No, well, maybe the first time, but the next two times, there's no way he thought I was kidding
right.
after that. But sure, he didn't do it. He didn't. I think he went out to talk to him, but waiting for it to pick. First pitch is like 10 feet outside. It was so awkward. So I was a little disappointed that happened. And I didn't tell anybody that story. Their catcher must have told somebody.
Someone had to.
Yeah.
Or the umpire.
Or maybe the umpire.
You got hit 204 times in your career. I looked this up last night. I think it's like 9th all time.
In the record books.
And you never wore one of those guards either.
You never wore a guard. You never wore
one time
a pad.
maybe a hand or something.
You get Andy McCullough from The Athletic asked you about this once as you approached 200, and he said, "Do you mind getting hit?" He said, "Do I like it? I mean, I don't dislike it. Getting hit by a pitch. That's a mentality right there. Can you explain that mentality?"
Oh man, it was weird.
Were you crazy?
I don't. Crazy is the right word. I mean, it was an advantage to be on base, right? I mean, think about it. So, growing up in Southern California, we played wiffle ball a lot, and the rules in wiffle ball was we had one base. It was a tree that we ran to, and either you throw the ball to the guy that's holding first base, or you get hit with the ball.
Yeah,
right. Standard. And we played with some guys that took really no mercy, and you had the ability to call mercy, and you were automatically out. And that was something that we all kind of did not
frowned
want to
upon.
do. Yeah,
it's frowned upon.
We wanted to be tough.
Right.
So it probably started back then, to be honest with you, where we would try to dodge it as much as we could, but we didn't care. Obviously, wiffle ball doesn't hurt as much as a baseball. But I looked at it as a positive for the team, and in turn, like selfishly, a positive for yourself, because you're on base. There's plenty of times where you're hit 0-2 count where you're probably not in a great position to be successful, and they hang a little slider and just instead of getting out of the way, it just clips your arm. No big deal. Take first base, and now Ryan Howard's up, and you guys know what he can do.
And then there was just right outside here. I still remember it like it was yesterday. The day you got your hand or your wrist broken against the Nationals. Was that 07?
That was 07. John Lannon.
That was you guys were right in the thick of it. You were in the thick of the MVP hunt. Was that one that still resonates with you? And did it tick you off at the time because of everything that was at stake?
Of course, because I knew I got hit. It hurt. It was one that didn't go away. I could feel it. I kept playing. Every time I threw, it hurt, and I could feel the bones kind of clicking. Yeah. So yeah, obviously I was not a happy camper at that point. We were rolling. We were playing well. I was playing. I felt like I was playing the best I've ever played at that point. And I knew this was going to hold me back for at least a month. So yeah, I was pissed for sure.
So you never talk about yourself ever, and you made it a point through your whole career. I just wanted to know, aside from winning the World Series here and that fantastic moment, what were the moments that gave you the most satisfaction being here in Philadelphia? If you look back and really take a deep dive and say, okay, this was really, really awesome for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably a few scenarios. So one relates to the World Series. We won this World Series, obviously amazing, but there's a lot of trickle down effect from winning a World Series, from a fan's perspective, from players' perspective, also like clubhouse personnel. So I remember won the World Series, you get a bonus for the World Series. I don't remember what it was at the time, but it was a nice chunk of change. And we, as a team, you guys know this, but I don't know if the casual fan does that. We have the ability as a team to divvy out shares per whoever you want. You can, everyone on the rosters, obviously in it, the coaching staff, and then it trickles down to the clubhouse people that are the supportive staff, the people that are there every single day in the trenches with you. They're just not out on the field, but they're behind the scenes. So we have an opportunity to vote and divvy out shares. So a full share, I don't remember what it was, but it was a few $100,000, which is a lot of money. So I remember having a conversation with one of the staff members. I'm not going to say his name, but essentially he after the fact, it cleared, it went into his bank account, and he was really emotional. And he had a bunch of student debt that he was able to pay off. I think he actually was able to purchase his first house, which to me, that's it still gives me goosebumps thinking about it, that not many people think about that, but that drastically changed his life just like that.
I remember Phil Sheridan tells a story all the time. When the night you got traded to the Dodgers, I don't know how late you stayed after the game, but you made a point to sign maybe 25 bats, and I think you might have personalized each one to everybody in the clubhouse, from Frank and Phil and Daniel Rourke to the Bat Boys.
Yeah.
Right?
I did.
That's important stuff for you to do.
It was, because like I said before, these guys they're in it, right? They're not the stars of the show. They don't get much recognition at all. But they are part of our success. They make our lives easier. They handle whatever we ask them to handle. They handle it. And I mean, through the course of the full season, you're traveling all the time. You have families. You have kids. You don't feel great every single day. So these guys are there, and they're there before any player's there, and they're there way longer than after everyone leaves. So they're grinding it, and they deserve attention. So I had a ton of bats that were getting not much use because I wasn't hitting the ball very hard. So I grabbed them all.
Might as well get rid of them.
I grabbed them all and addressed them to a bunch of different. I don't remember exactly who it was, but it was quite a few signatures and some thankful sayings.
I remember, I think when you came back, I was talking to Scott Sheridan, the athletic trainer, and you spent a lot of time with him.
I did.
But in that vein, how those relationships build? They're there for you guys, and they help you. He once gave you a great compliment. He said, Chase never left the athletic training room without saying thank you.
It's so easy to do, right? It's so easy to say thank you because they're there for us, right? And no matter what, everyone's got their own shtick, and they have their different ways of getting ready for a game. And some guys need more attention than others, but they always deserve a thank you.
Was that night kind of surreal? The night you were traded, because you were. I remember you were leaning on the railing, and there was nothing official. We were bugging the heck out of.
We were yeah.
Ruben, what's going on? He was not taking phone calls. He was ignoring us.
That was a really fun day.
And yeah,
nothing fun about it.
And then, the word is kind of out there, but it's not official. And then I actually remember you walking out. You shook the pitcher's hand, or after I think you guys won, and walking back to the dugout steps, and you gave the crowd a little wave. And I'm like, this thing is done.
Yeah. I mean, I have to go back in time.
I don't remember. I don't remember everything about it, but we had some discussions, and we had talked. Obviously, you had no trade clause and all that other business. And,
yeah, it was a whirlwind of a few months, to be honest with you.
Yep.
Yeah, it was trying to go back. So I remember I got off to a really terrible start, one that I couldn't even fathom. And the team was obviously not playing as well as it had been in previous years, and it was kind of trending down. And as a player, you feel like I'm going to snap out at any minute, no big deal. Everyone's going to fill in, and we're going to figure this out. As a player, you don't see the bigger picture, right? Now that I'm out of the game, you can kind of oversee and go, okay. You kind of see the landscape, and you can kind of guess how it's going to trend. So I never wanted to leave Philadelphia.
No, and he did. He made that very clear when we had discussions. It was something that Chase never really wanted to do, and I frankly did not think it was the greatest thing either. But we thought for us at the time, one was be the right thing for us, and two be the right thing for him, because I think it would give him an opportunity to go to a place where he would have a chance to win again, and with somebody in Andrew Friedman who coveted him in a way that was really pretty special. And that was something that I sort of had to convince, if I remember right, you of, and what he meant and what he was about and that kind of stuff, because that was important to you.
It was important
because of the culture of the team that you've been playing with.
Yeah, for sure. And going back, I never want to leave. We had a few different discussions. Remember, John was in a few different discussions, and listen, now I completely understand the landscape. At the time, I did not understand it as well as I do now. Trending differently. Some of these younger guys have to play this older guy that's clearly, obviously trending down in his career. Like, let's get these younger guys in there, get the old dude out of here, get him to a place where he can I'm not saying I'm get him to a place where he has a chance to win, because that's ultimately at that point that's what you're working out in the off season for, grinding for, being away from your family. You're there, for me at least, was to win another championship.
And it was your hometown team. It was probably the one team you would have said yes to.
Well, yeah. So there was, I don't know if Ruben's ever said, but there were I think there were a few opportunities to go other places. And because I had a no trade clause, I said no, which made Ruben's life probably a lot harder. At that time, I didn't care. Listen, I'm not going there just because you want to, I don't know what the right term, rebuild, kind of go in a different direction. I was going to be a little selfish in that state where I don't want to go to X, Y, and Z, even though they want me. I don't necessarily want them. The more I thought about it, the more I talked to my agent, the more I talked to my wife. It's like, all right, the pieces are starting to come into place a little bit. If I'm going to leave Philadelphia, the only place I want to go, it would be the Dodgers. One, because I grew up as a Dodgers fan.
Right.
Two, they had a really good team. So I felt like I had a good ability of like scouting the teams, going, all right, these teams, when you still have 60 games to play or 40 games to play, these teams, in my mind, playing against them, looking at their roster, these teams have the best chance of not only getting to the postseason, but like having success in the postseason. And I identified the Dodgers as one of those teams. I don't know what happened. I think Howie Kendrick maybe blew out, and immediately they needed a second. I don't think they were in the picture whatsoever until Howie got hurt. So, it all kind of worked out, but yeah, it was a sad day. Once I got to the Dodgers, it kind of reinvigorated me a little bit. Now you're in a playoff atmosphere. You're around players that you don't really know, but even though you've played against them, which was actually fun.
I thought a lot about this, and one of the things that I had seen in my career while I was playing is Darren Dalton going to the Marlins, and I felt like that was sort of a very similar. If you looked at the landscape of what was going on, Dutch went over to the Marlins. He was towards the end of his career, starting towards the end of his career. He got an opportunity to go play in a place where they were going to win, where he could have impact, and I think that's exactly what ended up happening with Chase. At some point, whether it was going to be physical or part of the clubhouse or whatever the case may be, he was going to be able to impact that team in a way that was going to be pretty positive.
Going back to the beginning of your career, somebody reminded me of this the other day. When you got called up, you were on a bus going to Ottawa. Do you remember this?
I have no idea. Actually,
you don't remember
maybe.
getting dropped off
I think
at
I
a
got
Subway?
dropped off somewhere.
You got dropped off at a gas station / Subway 45 minutes north
That
of
sounds
Scranton.
about right. Yes.
You don't remember this?
Pieces are coming together.
Okay.
Yes.
You were
Stop
on
the
a
bus.
Mark Baumgart got a call.
I don't remember who picked me up.
Picked up a $5 footlong.
Swanee picked me up. I don't remember. Yes, that is what happened. Correct. Thanks for bringing that
And
back.
drove him to the ballpark.
Someone came and picked me up.
They dropped them off at a gas station because they had to get to Ottawa. So they said, Chase, congratulations, you're going to the big leagues. We're going to drop you off this gas station / Subway. And you waited there for a clubby from Scranton to pick you up and I guess drive you to Philly.
That's exactly what happened.
And this is a dumb question, but did you have I guess cell phones were around then, right? I guess I had one. Did you call your parents or you call
That's a great question.
Yeah, there were cell phones.
Yeah, this was 2003. So yeah, there was definitely cell phones.
Okay.
So I don't remember who I called, but I would imagine maybe I didn't call anybody. I don't know. But I probably called somebody. But yes, now I remember getting off the bus.
Probably called your agent. Probably called Joel.
Maybe.
And then Charlie, he tweeted this out. Charlie tweeted this out a few years ago in an admiring way. He says he remembers, I think, when you got sent down, the famous story is you told him, I guess you guys don't want to win. Is that true?
All my stories are coming out of the closet.
That's even your manager, he says it in a very loving, admiring way, Charlie.
But that's what you love. When when a guy gets sent down, you want that guy to have a little,
be mad.
Have the red ass, a little piss and vinegar, know?
How do these stories come out?
Talk to your manager.
That also is a true story. Listen, I felt at that point in time. Let's see. I'm trying to remember how it all went down. 2003, I got called up. I broke camp with the major league team because Jason Michaels had a bad hamstring, but knowing that I was only going to be around for a while. And I don't know if it was that year or if it was 2000. It must have been that year, unless it was 2004. Do you remember?
See, I always thought
I
it
think
was
it was
something.
04,
I always
right?
thought it was something 04 opening day. They had
Yeah.
basically cleared the way for you to come back and be the opening day second baseman. And they started Polly at second base on opening
That's
day.
what it was. That's exactly what it was.
So it was more. You weren't in the starting lineup on opening day.
Wow.
After Ed Wade basically said in the paper, Chase Utley is going to be our opening day second baseman, and then opening day comes around and you're on the bench.
No, I got sent down. I don't.
It was sent down.
The
Okay.
exact facts of when and why I didn't make the team are a little blurry.
Wish I could remember.
But yes, I was in there, and I was not happy. I felt like I was one of the best 25 players.
Which is probably true.
It was completely true. It was completely true.
Yeah.
And I felt like I deserved to make the team. Looking back, and I get it. I wasn't going to play every single day. It could slow my progression. Go to AAA, play. I get it. I would tell some young kids now the same thing. But at the moment, I felt like I deserved to play in the big leagues. I felt like my talent was there, and I worked my ass off to get to that point. And yeah, I basically said it.
What
did I say? What did I say?
Tell me what. I guess you guys don't want to win, Bert.
There might have been a bad word in there.
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
that's okay.
Speaking of bad words, how often does someone out of the blue come up to you and
all the
say,
time.
all the time?
All the time. Yeah.
Like where?
Here, obviously. I mean, L.A., London.
Where in London did it happen?
Where was I? I was in a clothing store. I was in a clothing store, and another time I was walking down the street. I was in, where was I? I was in Switzerland. We were on a ski trip.
That is great.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But mainly cool.
Mainly what do you do? You just go.
Yeah. You acknowledge it for sure. Yeah.
So was that something that was sort of planned? Is it something you just the emotion just hit you? Was it was it the moment?
The beer?
Was it
probably all the above?
All the above.
It definitely was not planned. I don't even think we knew that we were speaking, right? So you guys know me. I don't love a microphone, even though it looked like I did at that moment. So yeah, I didn't know what I was going to say. I knew that I had a lot of energy, a lot of excitement, and that just the buzz throughout the whole city and the stadium was electric, right? So I kind of just said what I was feeling. And I feel like it resonated with most people.
I think it did. I think it resonated pretty much with 99% of the people.
So right in the Hall of Fame club at the stadium here at the ballpark, there's that picture of the moment you did it. And to look at all the reactions on the faces, like Jason Worth, and Hamill's going nuts, and Burl going nuts.
And then some personalities in there, right?
You can tell everybody's personality from that picture. Talk about a picture worth 1,000 words. That's worth 10,000 words.
Kind of like Da Vinci's Last Supper. You like to look at each character in the background.
Yeah.
It is so great. Every time I look at it, I laugh.
Awesome. Hey, tell us a little bit about your relationship with Charlie Manuel and how special it was and is.
Yeah, it still is. I've said this a bazillion times, but he really got in tune with his players. And you hear him talk, and you hear him fumble around sentences and mix up words at times. But he's a smart dude, and you guys have been around him quite a bit. He doesn't always come off that way, but in the clubhouse, man to man, he kind of understands the landscape of what's going on. He has his gut feeling is right quite a bit. And he allowed us to do what we wanted, but he still kind of oversaw it and if he ever sensed that it was getting a little awry, he would come to either me or go to Jimmy, or he would go to some guys that had a voice on the team and just give his opinion. He would call me in the office all the time, and now looking back on it, I had no idea what he was doing, and maybe he wasn't doing this, but I would be struggling, right? So he would call me in the office, "How you doing?" Ask me if I wanted a day off. It was always a no, and for a while I was able to talk myself out of days off. But in that conversations of days off, we would start talking about hitting, and he would start talking about, I don't know, we'll use Jimmy, for example. When Jimmy's going well, his hands are here and his balance is this and his timing is great. and like we'd go in and I would like talk to him about it. Yeah, I agree or disagree, and we'd have this full hitting conversation. And then we probably did that, I don't know, a handful of times over the years. And it was looking back, and it was always when I was struggling, and I came out of it thinking about the conversation I just had about Jimmy or Shane or Ryan, and now I put it on myself, and I made adjustments, and like it would snap me out of it,
Hmm.
which
Sly like a fox, man.
yeah,
Sly like a
he
fox.
was sly. He was good.
So we talked about the day you were traded. Sad day, you said.
Yeah, yeah.
What about the day this guy let Charlie go?
And be honest.
Oh,
I'll preempt this a little bit. He was displeased with me.
Really?
But anyway, go ahead.
so again, as a player, you know what you know, right? There's plenty of stuff that we're completely unaware of above our heads and what's going on in the communication. So I can't speak on any of that other than we love Charlie. We felt like Charlie was the right person to lead us. But looking back, I understand from if Ruben's trying to change things, right? Get younger players involved, change the dynamic, like slowly pluck pieces out and implement new pieces. I understand stuff change is sometimes a good thing, but like my loyalty to Charlie will be forever, and I felt like he was the best for us, and probably personally the best for me, right? Because I admired him so much, and I felt like we could have any conversation on any day about any subject. It had nothing, didn't have to do with baseball, and he was always there, willing to work and willing to talk. And sometimes I would come out a little confused after the conversation that we had, but like 5 minutes later, it would all kind of sync up. So yeah, I don't know. I don't remember if we had a conversation.
I think you came up to me afterwards and said something like, "Thanks for effing letting me know. Give me a heads up or something like that." And you were probably right. I mean, had I just given the dynamic of what he meant to you guys and the relationship that you had, and the relationship that I felt I always had with you, I probably should have. Things were happening so fast for me. You never make the right decisions all the time, and you don't prepare yourself perfectly all the time. But you're probably right. I probably should have given you and a couple other guys a little bit of a heads up, a little sneaky,
No, I
heads
get
up.
it. Yes. But then now I think about it, maybe a no. Like you're the general manager, you can do whatever you want, and it's a hard one because once you get input from the players, the input you get from the players kind of expect you to
Expected the change to be made.
yeah.
And that's the tougher spot.
It is a tough
Yeah.
one. So you want to keep a close relationship, but you still have to. There still has to be an arm's length relationship, in my opinion, from the
And
front
you probably
office
learned
to
that
the
from spending a little time in the front office there with Andrew, right?
100%. I mean, I was there to help in any different ways. But yeah, he does a good job of like being around, but like you can't be best friends. You can be really good friends, but once you become best friends, like your opinion starts to change and like the conversation starts to change.
I do want to say one thing about it. We ended up signing you to like an 8-year deal or something. I think it was before rather than going through all the arbitration stuff, we ended up doing that deal. And I have to say, he is the only player and family, because he and Jen, just as a thank you, sent me, because I did a lot of the negotiation. I mean, not all of it, but I did a lot of negotiation, part of it, that he actually sent me a bottle of champagne with a couple of glasses. That was very classy. That's the only player who's ever really done that. And I've given out a lot of money over the years.
Jason, I got one last question for you. You were famous for spending hours and hours and hours before the game and after game watching video. Is there one particular moment where that stands out of, man, I watched video like for 3 hours before the game looking for maybe a pitcher tipping his pitches or a pitcher's move or something that it played off in a big game that really stands out, or not?
I mean, there's a ton of times that it paid off for me. There's so many that I can't. It's hard to like identify one particular instance, but there is a time where this was, I don't know, 13, 14. Remember Pete Orr?
Of course,
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Great dude.
Yeah, good dude.
could play a little bit. Didn't get a ton of time, but was filling in. And I remember I wasn't playing one day. I don't know if I was hurt or if I just wasn't playing. And I'm watching my video, and we were facing. Remember Josh Johnson with the Marlins?
Sure.
And when he
Big
was
right-hander.
when he was like dealing.
Yeah.
He was really tough. Peter was playing and a little nervous. I identify all this stuff on Josh Johnson. And it wasn't great information, but it was like I would take it to the grave was, listen, if an 0-2 counts, he's not going to throw you a strike. 100% of the time, it's going to be a ball. And 95% of the time, that 1-2 pitch is also going to be a ball. So, Pete, come in here. If you get 0-2, just take the next 2 pitches. And he's like, come on. I'm like, well, I mean, you guys are hitting 0-22, 0-2, and 1-2. So, and once you get to 2-2, the guys are hitting 180 or whatever. It was a dramatic jump. He's like, all right. So, sure enough, actually, he was pinch hitting. That's what it was. He was pinch hitting. Goes up. Sure enough, foul ball, 0-2. He kind of looks at me. I give him like a shrug. He just statue takes. Ball 1, 1-2. Statue takes again. Ball 2. So now 2-2 count. And then next pitch, you got to hit. And scored a run. He was so happy. And I was so happy, right? I was happy that he had success. 2, I was happy that he didn't throw a strike 0-2 or 1-2. So that's one that I remember well.
That's pretty funny.
That's great.
We're watching a great Phillies team here in 2024. I mean, they really racking up the wins, and a lot of comparisons to the 2011 team that won 102 games. On the subject of 2011, does it still hurt a little bit? I know it hurts him a lot. Does it hurt for you? And maybe beyond that, after you answer that part, do you see any similarities?
So 2011 meaning we lost to the Cardinals in the first round?
Yeah, after winning 102 and having and having that great pitching staff.
Of course, it stings. But now that you kind of see how baseball is, right? At the moment, we're the best team, and therefore we should win the World Series. And that's not the case. I don't know what the percentage is of the team with the best record actually winning the World Series. I imagine it's not that high. I think I'm a big believer in momentum, right? So I think we saw that a few years ago with the Phillies. Kind of didn't play that well first half of the year. Kind of turned it on the second half and like really caught fire in September, and went into the postseason super hot, and they ended up getting to the World Series. So that was kind of the same with the Cardinals. I don't know how many games they won in September, but it seemed like they won every single game.
Last 25, they were great.
Yeah. And we had an opportunity, if we really wanted to, looking back on it, of like not allowing them in the playoffs if we had lost a few games.
There's a lot of people who are still upset about having won all those games in Atlanta, sadly.
Yeah, right. So, anyways, super disappointing. But they had a good team.
No doubt.
They had a great team. But yeah, I mean, I thought that team was pretty strong, really strong. That pitching staff was fantastic.
And this team?
This team is, listen, these guys have baseball players, right? So you have a mix of younger guys and guys with some seasons under their belt, but there's no guy that's like on his last leg, right? These guys are all kind of coming into their prime or in the middle of their prime of their careers, and so that resembles what we were dealing with back in 2007, 2006, 7, 8, 9. We were kind of coming in together in our prime, and these guys, it seems like they really like each other, and that goes a long way. Same with our guys. We enjoyed spending time with each other away from the ballpark, hanging out, having dinner, having a couple drinks, talking a little trash. That kept us tight, and I see that same aspect in these guys.
Hey, did you think that Aaron Rowan had a big part of that when he came over? Was he a big part of that, or is there other guys that are sort of helped galvanize the team? I remember because Aaron had come over from Chicago and he had won a World Series, and I know he was, he was a big voice in the clubhouse. I just didn't know whether he was one of those guys that sort of pushed that forward. I know Pat was part of it, you and some other guys, but was he part of that as well?
Yeah, he was. He was, like you said, he had a big voice. He brought over his experience from the White Sox, so it was a lot of team gatherings. We didn't have as many team gatherings prior to him coming over. But yeah, Pat had a great voice, a calming, soothing voice. Kind of could see the big picture at a young age for the most part. And Aaron was loud and fun, and he played as hard as I've ever seen anybody play. He would give it his all. He was always squeezing that bat so hard, right? I don't know how he hit like that, but he was a really good player and really strong for our clubhouse. We had a number of guys that were just positive influence in our clubhouse. I mean, I had a chance to play with Kenny Lofton early in my career, late in his career, and to see him work. And he was, I don't know how old he was, but he was late 30s. Now looking back on that, I have more appreciation of how he played at that age. I mean, Brett Myers was a crazy wacko, but great teammate, amazing teammate, would do anything for you. And he would love to make jokes about people. We would throw it right back at him, and he could take it, which you had to do in our clubhouse. You had to be able to take a joke. I don't know. I think we got along really well, and obviously we had a lot of talent to go with that.
That's awesome, man.
Remember the day Brett Myers ranked on your shirt, Todd?
Yeah, well,
That was
You're not a fashion mogul?
No, I'm not a fashion mogul.
Todd had this
Not like
shirt
Jay.
on, and in spring training he had this shirt on. It was sort of like terry cloth and had these horizontal
Terry cloth.
brown and yellow and white stripes. It was awful. And I said to Myers, I go, look at Zelecki's shirt. And man, it was like a soft toss, and he whacked it over the net and over. He says, Zelecki, where'd you get that shirt? A yard sale?
He just crushed me right in front of everybody in the middle of the clubhouse. That's all right. You could give it back to him. Though you're right, though, with Brett, you could give it back. Even us as reporters, you could give it back to him.
Yeah, I mean, and to your credit, this is not blowing smoke, but to your guys' credit, we did enjoy everyone, every reporter, because we felt like there were some that were looking for a headline, looking to cause a little drama, and you two definitely were not in that case. I know you guys know this, but we felt comfortable talking to both of you about any subject, on the record, off the record. We didn't have to fear that you were going to run and
until he gets you fired. Yeah.
Did he get you fired?
Oh, yeah, he got me fired.
Well, so I remember this one, and I don't know if you remember this, Ruben. I remember a few times, like, I don't know if it was 14 or it was 15. We would pass each other in the hallway, and you would kind of just say, "Where do you want to be traded to?" Remember this?
I can see him saying that.
Probably.
Right?
All cavalier.
At first, it was like I ignored it. Next time, where do you want to be traded to? Come on, Ruben. Next time, where do you want to be traded to? Ruben, if you have to trade me, you're going to get fired. Remember that?
Yes, I do. And I knew I was going to get fired.
So he said, "I'm going to trade you anyway."
So it wasn't me.
No, I dug my own grave.
No, but listen, I don't know.
Here's a tough thing for me. I didn't want to be the guy that did two things. One, fired Charlie Manuel, and two, traded Chase Utley.
Did both.
And I did
Quite
both.
a perfecta.
That's wearing the black hat, man. And
I don't
sometimes you
envy
have to
the
do
position that you were in, because we had so much
those
success, and then eventually that changes, and it just.
Remember the time you wanted to kill me, though, when your batting practice bat broke after 3 years?
I wanted to kill you.
Yeah.
Why did I want to kill you?
Did you take it out there and hit with it?
Remember the story?
Did you break it?
No, but you were upset. I wrote a story about it. I brought in. You used the same batting practice bat for like 3 years. It was caked with pine tar, and the sweet spot was the paint was all worn off it. So you agreed to talk to me about it, how good it felt. It got you in the right rhythm for the game. You loved this bat for 3 years, and then so I write this story. You even posed for a picture with it. I write this story, and it's going to go in the Sunday paper. You guys leave for San Francisco on Friday. I'm not on the trip. Todd's on the trip. I say, you have to watch every swing he takes in batting practice. Make sure this bat survives at least through Sunday. Friday night game, he breaks the bat in the batting cage, smashes it on the batting cage, and he walks by you. What did he say?
He said, "Tell Jim thanks a lot."
I thought he said something that had some cuss words in it.
He probably had a few adult words.
That was great. I remember that.
Ruined my story.
I had to call Jim like, "Holy shit. Chase just broke that bat."
I thought you were kidding me.
No. Yeah, that was great.
I remember that. I do, in San Francisco, yes. And it was, I think I went on like a big long slime.
You did, and you were staring daggers at me for 2 weeks. You wouldn't talk to me. And finally, one day, I sensed you were in an okay mood, and I walked up to you and I said, "You really don't think I had anything to do with this, do you?" And you're like, "No, I'm just giving you some crap."
Well, not very
great.
superstitious as players.
Very.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, Chase, thanks so much, man.
That's
I appreciate
it?
the time. Yeah, I mean, unless you want to keep rolling, we could do another hour and a
Give
half.
us your best story.
I wrote down a bunch of great stories that I'd love to ask you about.
Ask him one more.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
No,
We're good.
no, we really appreciate it.
Yeah,
And
thank
also,
you so much.
we also appreciate you as a player, but you as
Yeah.
a person and what you meant to this organization and to this city. And I know how much these two guys respected you as well, and just thrilled to be able to sit down with you for a few minutes.
No,
That's fun.
I'm
Appreciate
happy you
it.
asked me to do this. And,
Awesome.
And yeah, I definitely wouldn't do it for most people. So yes,
Thank
you guys are on the top of my list.
Now, if you want to sign off in a Cockney accent and say London Series will be a jolly good time, now's the time to do it.
Are you guys coming?
I'll be there.
Jim's
I'll
not
be there.
coming.
I'm not
Jim's
coming.
Why are
I'm
you
not
not
coming
going? Rube, you're not
I
coming?
have. I'm not. I'm on home confinement.
Same.
Are you?
Same.
The ankle bracelet.
I have the ankle.
I'll be
It would go off at the airport.
I'll be there. Yeah. But anyway, thanks, Chase.
He'll have to represent.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me. And all the fans listening in, come to London. It's going to be great.
That was awesome. Thank you again to Chase Utley for his time. We had a blast. Literally could have sat down with him for another couple hours, but you got to let the guy go at some point. Maybe he will be back with us down the road. We hope that you will be back with us later this week when Ruben, Jim, and I talk more Phillies. Thanks again to Shy Vintage Sports, who sponsored this episode. Remember, Center City, Wayne, Westchester. Tell them the Phillies Show sent you for 15% off your next purchase. Thanks, everybody. This is the Phillies Show. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the Phillies Show wherever you get your podcasts. You can also watch us on our YouTube channel. If you like what we do, give us a review. Tell a friend. Catch Ruben, Jim, and me on Phillies Nation TV, presented by Valley Forge Tourism. New episodes air an hour before every Saturday Phillies game on NBC Sports Philadelphia. Replays air throughout the week and on PhilliesNation.com. Get more of Ruben's analysis during, before, and after Phillies games on NBC Sports Philadelphia, on the Sports Radio 94 WIP Morning Show, and MLB Network. Read Jim at the All City Network at allphly.com. Find more of me at MLB.com, the Phillies Beat newsletter, and occasionally on MLB Network.